Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV and more IndyCar action here live in the Lone Star State. 1 week ago we made our trip over to the Texas Motor Speedway, and in a 4-wide finish it was Christopher Demerit at the line taking victory for Team I5G. We stay in Texas, but this time heading our way over to the Circuit of the Americas, nestled in Austin, Texas, for a 27-lap sprint here in round 8 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. The start of a new week, and as always, that means the start of another iRacing IndyCar Open Championship broadcast on a Monday night. Strength of field race, 18 cars underway for qualifying right now with 6 minutes left on the clock. A reminder as well that live timing and scoring is available by heading on over to timing71.org. You can use the link racespot.wtf/Indy to follow along with your favorite team and drivers. TV cameras provided to us by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com, with additional car cameras designed by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. As always here on a Monday, I am joined by Lorenzo Bonder. Lorenzo, a Circuit of the Americas, always a very polarizing track. Not as many signups as I might have expected, but we still do get a nice 18-car grid as we work our way through the month of May.
Yeah, we're not going to get the full grid like we did in the last time around as we got in Texas, but we're now exiting from the Texas doubleheader, right? So we have COTA, and then we are all the way forward into Indianapolis, which is going to be a very interesting race. It's going to be in the road side for the first part, but back here to COTA, it's going to be a polarizing track. I think drivers will be a little bit anxious about the track limits here, Arjuna.
Track limits. And the one and only time that IndyCar came here for the IndyCar Classic, it was Colton Herta taking victory back in 2019. And maybe only fitting that at turn 19, the penultimate corner, track limits very much not respected. Let's take a look at our championship picture. We've had 4 different winners in the NTT IndyCar Series so far, but here it's been a slightly different show. It is still Powerslide Motorsports at the front. Brandon Traynor, the defending champion, unable to commit to defending his crown. Henry Bennett looks for his 6th title. Adam Blocker trying to bounce back after Traynor stole the championship from him. But there are some interesting fights up and down the field. You've got Brendan Lichtenberg, Andrew Marquez for 3rd and 4th. Great to see Alexis Newsom, relatively new to iRacing and IndyCar competition, up there in 6th position, as well as the likes of Liam Quinn, Andrew Wood for Team Talent. But at the end of the day, Lorenzo, it is getting very close at the front. And as Blocker heads to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for his own trackside commitments, I think Henry Bennett will be trying to get some good points here today.
Yeah, because Adam Blocker basically has this race and pretty much it basically, because next week you start to prepare for Indianapolis because the race is on May 15th. So Blocker has basically this week and maybe the next one, and it's a big if you can actually get over the top split session and score some points. So Blocker needs to maximize all points he can get to actually get to the top spot from Henry Bennett.
I must say, some wonderful looks at the Circuit of the Americas that we're getting right now as solo car qualifying is underway at this 3.426 mile, 20-turn layout. You can see here the stadium section, a few switchback corners in the build-up, but then here that triple right-hander, very similar to the Turkish triple left-hander, if you will. Then the infamous turn 19, you see it at the top right of the corner there. Track limits will be in effect here on the iRacing service. Won't be such a concern for the drivers, at least when it comes to off-track counts. Here is Adam Blocker as he tries to get back to the top of the heap here in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship, but is Adam Crane on provisional pole position with a 1:43.383. Across the line, Adam Blocker will complete his 2nd and final qualifying lap, and what will it be? At the line, a 1:43.138. That does put him to provisional pole, Lorenzo, but we've got cars still coming across the line, including cars like Yao Vaz for Yas Heat.
Yeah, Joe Vaz and Yas Heat actually still able to do his lap. We're looking over here with Adam Crane as he's about to finish his lap. Managed to get into turn 19 very cleanly. 2.244 from the gap. Oh, that is interesting. Yao
Vaz very, very quick early in qualifying. He's still got a lap, but I think he's done.
Oh.
Adam Crane puts himself up onto the outside of the front row with a 1:43.101. It's Connor Harrington in provisional 4th with Henry Bennett in 5th, Cy Andrea in 6th, Graham Saunders in 7th, Alexander Van der Sant in 8th. Looking down, there's not many other names I'd expect to put in a very quick qualifying lap time, but here comes fellow Alpine Stars geodesic racing teammate of Sanders, John Bodefer, the Michigan native. We saw him in action at the Barber Motorsports Park, Lorenzo, down the hill to start lap number 2 here.
Yeah, and looking at the practices, he was basically on pace with Graham Sanders. Of course, he can actually get a very good lap and see how is he going to go, but regardless, it's very, very clustered, and very spaced out qualifying. Well, the track is not the easiest one for you to get a qualify in, and looking beautiful, he basically just gives it up.
Yeah, I think he was very slow through the infield complex. That Sector 1, very high speed switchbacks, reminiscent of Maggots and Beckett's in Silverstone. Still 70 seconds, roughly 60 seconds, excuse me, left on the qualifying clock, but I think everyone is done, at least for now. So Alexander Van der Sant, great to see him up in 8th position. Usually a bit more of a strong contender on the ovals. He'll be back in action later tonight from the Atlanta Motor Speedway and Lionheart Speedway's series competition. But Lorenzo, this is an interesting proposition now. Yao Vaz, Adam Crane, not really mixed up in the championship hump. Adam Blocker and Henry Bennett, they'll line up on the inside of in rows 2 and 3.
Yeah, it's that preparation to the ISLWC, right, that is coming up just this weekend, right, here on RaceSpotTV. So you get those preparations and you basically show your badge to the other drivers and say, oh, I'm here just because I'm not doing it over as much as you guys are doing doesn't mean I can actually get it on the fun, right? So Joan Vaz, not surprised he gets top 1, showing his World Championship driving skills.
And you can see as well, every car setting their qualifying lap time on the red mark tires. But let's go trackside here once more in the Lone Star State to take a look at our starting grid in round 8 here from the Circuit of the Americas. So on pole position, driving for Yas Heat, and he's brought the heat to the Circuit of the Americas. 1:43.022 gets Yao Vaz a pole position. Adam Crane will line up on the outside of row number 1. There's just under 1/10 of a second separating those two drivers. Adam Blocker on the inside of row 3 with Connor Harrington on his outside. Henry Bennett lines up on the inside of Cy Andra for VRS Satellite Racing. Graham Sanders for the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing Team inside of row 4, where Alexander Van der Sant finds himself starting a very busy night in his IndyCar competition. Rashad Craig, Andrew Wood on the edge of the top 10, with Kazuhiro Shiba and Chris Wilhite on row number 6. John Bodefer, Kevin Bulhasa, 13th and 14th respectively, with Nate Brody, Julian Martinez-Pastor, Laszlo Schersbo, and Rob Unglenix rounding out our 18-car field. 18 cars, not that many you'd think at this 3.5-mile track, Lorenzo, but with 20 corners, you mentioned off-tracks are going to be a consideration for the drivers. There's not just 1 or 2 places. Every single corner is something they'll have to watch out for.
Yeah, basically go off that white stripe. You basically got an off-track. There are only a few places you can actually place that tire off the track and actually not get that 1X incident. I think the one thing that is going to be really interesting is that infamous turn 1. We see that in F1. You know that cars can go nearly 5 wide because of the radius of the turn, but it's basically a V-shaped turn, and getting to the outside part of it can cause so much confusion. Let's see if they're going to keep it clean on lap 1, because it is instead of a standing start, is a rolling start, so things can change very much. Yeah,
if anything, the rolling start might be a bigger issue, when it comes to the start here. We'll get a bit of an opportunity for the cars to warm up their tires. I think Kevin Bulhasa, the only car not to take to the starting grid, so 17 cars ready to rumble. Take a look at the track conditions. 38 degrees Celsius, that will warm up, and in a 27-lap race with a 16-lap fuel window, does mean there's a fairly large opportunity for drivers to either try an undercut or an overcut. We will see which one will be superior when it comes to the race here today. And a reminder as well that you can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to racespot.wtf/Indy to use Timing 71 and their world-class suite of data analysis tools that does include live track conditions here on the iRacing service. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. Alongside is Lorenzo Bonder once more on a Monday evening as we get set to kick off a busy week in iRacing IndyCar competition. First here, of course, we have the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. This Wednesday, the Lionheart IndyCar Series heads to the Kentucky Motor Speedway for what should be an interesting race there. And then on Saturday, the ISOWC does get underway. The top three, Baz, Crane, and Blocker, will all be in action, as will Bennett, Andra, and Saunders. So it's a field looking to get some experience in the IndyCar, and we are about to get underway for 27 laps as Yao Vaz brings us out of the final corner. That will be an early jump for him as we get underway here in the Circuit of the Americas. Already on the push-to-pass button are both Vaz and Crane. Blocker has to try and look to the outside as Crane tries to sweep his way down to the inside. Side by side, Bennett and Andra as well. I think Bulhassa is going to roll himself out of pit road. We work our way through turn number one safely. Lorenzo was maybe trying to set up some commentators' curses there. Andrew Wood has slotted in front of Rashard Craig, but at the front of your field, and no changes in the top four. Cy Andra has scampered on past Henry Bennett, Lorenzo, as they start to work down the hill.
Yeah, they're going to start working down the hill, and that assist session is very tricky for you to get it right. If you actually get on the bumpers, you can get so loose with the cars. We saw that with Sebastian Vettel. They come into this big hairpin braking zone. He needs to throw the car a little bit late, and we can definitely see some guys use the push to pass that. There we go, and some overtakes can be made at the straight.
Look at the timing tower lighting up. Vaz and Crane already down to just 8 push to passes left, but it's also push to defend if you're the ass heat driver out front as he'll work his way down into the braking zone of turn 12, still in the race lead. Can see Bulhassa on the push to pass trying to catch up at the back as well. Blocker applying pressure to the back of Adam Crane. We work our way through the stadium section for the very first time. Top 5 separated by 2 seconds, and the top 10 still only separated by 6 seconds or so as we will complete lap number 1. In terms of push-to-pass usages, it's only Blocker in the top 5 that has refrained from getting on the button. Cy Andra as well, down to 8, but Bennett is getting pressured now from Saunders, who wants to catch up with those cars, scampering away in front, Lorenzo.
As they go into the final turn, opening up lap number 2 here. João Vaz again using the push to pass, not allowing Adam Crane to get closer. He retained, and he's not going to use it, and basically just try to conserve it as much as you can. We saw similar strategy done in Long Beach by Gustav Greenberg, as just wasting as many as you can those push to passes to try to get either closer or get away from the overtakers. But I don't know how much that will do good for the heat driver, because I think fuel has so much of a big talk over here where you can save so much fuel just playing your cards right.
Yao Vaz is really pushing the limits as well, because for a moment I got told he was off the track before I think the software realized that it was just Vaz exploiting every possible inch that he can. But like you say, already down on the push to pass once more on the button, so he's almost burned through half of his usages, and we're not even completed lap number 2 of this race. Blocker will be very, very content, because with track temperatures like we were talking about early in the running, Lorenzo, a tire fall off is really going to be a thing here on the red mark tire.
Yeah, we were talking about this. We were concerned if this is going to be like scorched or maybe 50 degrees on the track, or actually going to be North Pole in Texas, right about on the 20s, maybe in the low 30s. But it's right about what is actually meant to be as we look into Graham Sanders and actually applying some pressure on Cy Andra, and I think that was Corner Harrington that ran a little bit off wide on the hairpin.
It was. Harrington is now 2.5 seconds adrift from the top 3. Can see cork in the bottle. Andra all over the rear end. Saunders and Bennett have swapped around positions as well, so the British Racing Green number 2 machine in today's race, leading this championship, needs to close up the gap to the cars in front. Blocker on the button for the very first time as he looks to the inside as well of Adam Crane. Crane tries to cut him off, but not in time. Side by side down the hill, and Adam Blocker has the move done as Cy Andra tries to do the very same thing, but unable to do so. And I think for now, Graham Saunders might just have to hold back as he looks to the inside for a second, down through the S's here. on board with Saunders in the Alpine Stars geodesic racing machine. Look at the alternate lines being taken all over the inside curve for Saunders. Andra, much wider, Lorenzo, coming down the hill here.
Yeah, and you can see that Graham actually caught an off track. That slide trip into the AstroTurf actually will get you 1x, and you can see all the drivers basically using the push to pass. Top 5 is the push to pass. Vaz is gonna basically waste all his push to pass out before the first part of the race.
Crane looked to the outside at 12. Blocker squeezed him and runs slightly wide. And now 1.8 seconds clear as Vaz. I wonder if at this point in time he's more concerned about just getting some clean air and not worrying about the cars behind. In through the stadium section, Andra gets on past Harrington, who tries to take a look back, forces him deep under the brakes. And here comes Saunders, Lorenzo, to try and take advantage through the triple right-hander.
It looks like Sanders' car is very, very good on the draft itself. It gets really close, and then you can actually apply some pressure in it. So it's going to be really interesting how aggressive is going to be Sanders here on the final turn, and then all the run down into turn number 1. Let's see if he's going to use the push to pass and make the overtake. He
was very deep under the brakes, but no harm, no foul there. Across the start-finish line to complete lap number, I believe it's 4 for these cars. 27 lap race. No, that was lap number 3, unless our timing screen is going down. I thought for a second we had done one more lap, but apparently not, and I am very much seeing things once again here up in the RaceSpotTV booth. Check back in out front, because Vaz has scampered away to a 2.1 second advantage. Blocker is now 7/10 clear as he works his way through the right and lefts of the S's. Down the hill, he'll work then to complete Sector 1, Lorenzo. And I think the mission now for Adam Blocker is to try to reel on in the number 4 machine.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, how much work does Adam Blocker? Oh, massive slide, and what a save here, Arjuna.
And Crane right on the button to try and take advantage. He's down to 5 usages as well for the remainder of this race. So Vaz, as well as Crane, being very aggressive, blocking all the way to the inside. Oh, was there contact between the two of them? Crane slips on past. Blocker says, I'm not having any of that one. Forces Crane wide. Oh, and this is checking these cars up. They're 3 seconds adrift now from the race leader.
Yeah, and I think João Vaz is going to say thank you very much, or obrigado in Portuguese, and good luck Portuguese. And you can see the lock from Adam Blocker into turn number 16, and that might affect the tire grip a little bit, but Adam Crane looking really patient. He wants to make the move. I wouldn't be surprised. He uses the push to pass once again on the main straight to try to get that overtake back.
What a wonderful track this is, though, as Crane looks to the inside at turn 20. That will actually hurt him as he tries to get the power down, but here you can see, I tell you what, I said I wanted to break out the telestrator, Lorenzo. There you go. That's the all-important button if you're Adam Crane. It's down to just 5. He gets deep under the brakes as he tries to close on Blocker, but ultimately, even though the advantage between first and second is 3.5 seconds, with such a large fuel window, it could open the door for Blocker to try a strategy masterclass here.
Yeah, we were talking about 15 lap stints. I saw 12 lap stints just based on push to pass usage or different fuel mixes, and you can try to save under the draft with somebody, turn off the engine mode a little bit. So it's going to be interesting as we're back with with Graham Sanders going for the hunt on Connor Harrington. I think Harrington managed to open up a little bit of a gap on the geodesic driver, but it formed up a bit of a 4-car train draft in the mid pack, fighting for top 5.
It's not just the top 5 battle anymore. If you look slightly further up the shot, Andra is right on the back of his teammate there. Andrew Wood and Rashad Craig both on the button, but not really in a position to fight right now. There goes Wood in the Team Talent machine, entering the braking zone at 12. Well, back to live pictures. Andra and Crane have swapped around here, so not sure if that was just opportunistic driving from Andra, but we have a very interesting proposition with second, third, and fourth squabbling amongst each other. You've got a former World Championship driver at the front of this field, Lorenzo, showing them he might be new to the IndyCar, but he'll be one to watch come this Saturday.
Yeah, he will be one to watch this Saturday, and we talked with Sai, I think, on the round of Barber, and how interested he is about driving these cars, right? How much of an interest he has taken, and now that he basically has no commitment aside. He doesn't have major leagues like to get involved to. I think we're going to see a very, very strong outing from Sayandra. We know he's a very capable driver, former World Championship driver. So I can't wait to see what he does in the ISLWC.
And so through the S's, now the separation is Adam Crane is 1 second behind Andra. I wonder if he's just burnt the tires up as well. Now let's take a look at those track conditions. If anything, it's cooled down slightly, as you can see. Now Saunders is close to being passed by Bennett, who's slipped down 2 positions since the start of the day. There are some interesting scraps further back as well. You saw on the button was John Bodefor slightly earlier. He's got Julian Pastor and Kazuhiro Shiba right behind him on the edge of the top 10. This is for 11th position. So these guys enjoying their fight halfway through the fuel run effectively. On board, let's jump with Henry Bennett here, Lorenzo. Braking zone of turn 12 and into the stadium section. Interesting switchbacks here, and it's very easy to lock up a tire.
Yeah, because he has so many different braking zones, right? And so many radius to the corners as they go into 16. 16, very famous for you to get that lockup, because it's kind of like of a wide open entry, and then you have to shut all the way into the apex and avoid clipping that that red part off the track. Otherwise, you get an off track. So you have to be very cautious with your accelerator and braking gauges. Right over here, you actually can get an off track as we're looking to Red Bull's battle and a broken front wing.
This is right at the tail of the field. Kevin Bulhassa, who of course started down on pit road, has gotten past Nate Brody, who you can see has got a lot of damage. Ooh, Sarge Craig, final corner. That's not how you want to light the tires up. Here comes Bodefor, Pastor, and Shiba. So this is Craig on the edge of the top 10. We'll take a look at our first RaceSpotTV TV replay on the day, because it's been a pretty clean race, all things given, especially considering some of the action that we've seen. This is through the penultimate corner. Looks okay in the Rebellion liveried car. I'm suspecting Lorenzo. Ooh, not getting on the power. The rear end stepping around very early there.
Yeah, midway through the corner. Let's see through another perspective here on Rashad Craig's as he goes into the final corner. If there, yeah, the car just gets really loose. There is not even an RPM engagement out of the car. I'm kind of surprised to see the car getting loose midway through the corner, to be very honest with you.
It is an interesting one, but you know, it can happen, and when you're hustling the car like you are here, easy to make mistakes. Gaps between the front three are starting to elongate out. Andra slipping back into the clutches of his teammate. As you can see, Connor Harrington only 1.3 seconds adrift as well of 4th place Crane. Adam Blocker trying to now work on whatever tire conservation that he's done so far. Fastest last time around, a 144.796. It's only 0.2 faster than Vaz, but this time around, what's the lap time going to be for Vaz as he crosses the stripe? A 44.916. For Blocker, it's a 45.023. So the gap is holding fairly steady, Lorenzo, at 3.4 seconds.
Yeah, last time by, Blocker got 0.2 out of the Yas Heat driver. So it's kind of like on a roller coaster. They're just trying to managing the tires as we speak. And one funny thing, looking over here on the best laps, Vaz is the only individual who's gone lower than the 44s. Everybody else has been in the in between the 44s to the 47s in terms of best laps.
You know what I think he's also done here, Lorenzo? He knows that the tire wear is significant enough that you're better off trying to use the advantage of the push to pass early. And that's what he did. He also took advantage, of course, of Crane and Blocker scrapping with one another, and now is laid off. He's not been abusing it as much, and will potentially wait until he comes back down onto pit road, try and undercut and take full advantage of his fresh tires. Let's see how it will work. But here you can see on board with Van de Sant, right on the tail of Henry Bennett, working their way down into turn 12. Van de Sant will poke his nose to the inside. Bennett will fight him deep under the brakes, and Van de Sant says, you know what, I don't want to cause any issues. Bennett runs slightly wide. That will drag them away from Graham Saunders for the time being. Back to Pastor and company here, Lorenzo, because down the back straightaway, these guys also on the button.
Yeah, also on the button, down into the hairpin, making a little bit of an aggressive move, and then he goes for the move. Threatened it, just took its time and made the move. And one spot up, I think that is Sabo, just made a move on Pastor, and now Pastor is going to have to be a little bit reclusive and try to play coy in the draft.
Yeah, it was, and you can see different lines being taken there through turn 15, entering them into the triple right-hander. This time at the line, Vaz down into the S's with a 45.169 versus a 45.081, so they are trading lap times back and forward, and really you'd have to think at this point, Lorenzo, if there's going to be anything that happens, it's going to be during the pit cycle.
Yeah, it's going to be, and we're approaching that pit cycle.
Sorry, Lorenzo.
Okay.
Julian Pastor straight down onto pit road. First retirement of the day. Has to be contact of some kind, Lorenzo.
Yeah.
Oh, and he backs the car up hard into the wall. That would explain a lot of it. One more look if we can. Maybe on board here.
And looking on board on the helmet cam off, Julian Pastor goes into commitment into the final turn. Car gets loose on the end of it. I think it might be related to the accelerator, and just clipping the brakes, holding as much as you can is not going to work because the car still wants to spin around, and hitting that tire barrier, not the tire barrier, but the wall really hard, and might going to compromise the right-left suspension out of the Iberian driver.
Yeah, I have a feeling that damage probably a little bit too terminal for him to continue at this point in time. Working lap 9. Vaz about to come through the final corner. In terms of movers and shakers, not really being one where the passes have happened recently, but early on when the tires were fresh, was prime for late braking moves, especially down into turn 1. Blockers up a position. Syandra, 3 positions gained up into the podium. His teammate Crane down 2, with Harrington down 1, Saunders up 1, and Henry Bennett also down a couple in the championship fight with his teammate Blocker. That won't help the number 2 machine, but we will see what that means, as of course Blocker has his own commitments coming in the month of May. I will say, Lorenzo, first time I think we're seeing this brand new Yas Heat machine, and it's brought the heat not to the track, but also to the livery as well. I heard there was a bit of commotion trying to get their livery sorted in time, but it all worked out at the end of the day.
No complaints whatsoever. I like what they're doing with those red wings, and the red front and back wings, and with the mixture of their traditional cyan black livery they have on the car. So for the upcoming season they have on ISOWC, it's looking very pretty, that car.
It's great to have, so many blue chip names on board. As Bennett on the button. Let's go check in here. Oh, he's closed up to Saunders. Looks to the inside at turn number 12, side by side. Saunders makes it slightly easier than I thought than he could have. Bennett's a bit slow on the exit. We'll hold on to 6. These guys now 2.7 seconds behind Connor Harrington, who is now 3 seconds adrift from the top 4. So there is separation starting to form. The interesting thing, Lorenzo, I do think, as you can see, I think Saunders will fight this one back if he can. The new tire model, definitely a marked improvement for many on the iRacing service in the IndyCar. But the one thing that I think we still haven't got quite right is the fact that sometimes the black tire should be a bit more viable.
Yeah, we're looking at black tires being more viable on the IndyCar, and the iRacing IndyCar season, right, where you have longer laps, bigger strategies, right? And basically in these sprint races, as we call it, we're seeing the red stripe being more accessible. You have more grip. The longevity you can get out of those tires is much better than using the black stripes, where you might lose a little bit of pace and speed. It's something to take a look at maybe for next season when they come with the balance of performance. But yeah, I really wanted to see the black stripes coming more and more into those sprint races, where it would bring more of a strategy battle in these road races.
Good thing about this Saturday, ISOWC black tires will be required at least for one green flag lap, so there's no getting around that requirement unless you want to try something sneaky. I don't think race control will take too kindly to that one. Van der Sant now on the tail of Saunders. Sanders or Saunders? I've always wondered what it is. I should probably figure that one out in as quick a time as I can. Always wonderful to see the gold and black colors on any car on this iRacing service. I must say, Lorenzo, though, we're talking about liveries. The addition of spec maps a couple of years ago. Ooh, Saunders all sorts of out of shape. The spec map really does make that car pop.
Yeah, it does really make the car pop, you know, because you can add the chromes in and you can give a little bit of a flare into the car. But talking about battles, Van der Sant looking a little bit aggressive into the S's section.
Ooh.
Again, a tail slide out of the geodesic driver, and the push pass, not surprisingly, being used by Van der Sant. No move will be done.
Saunders doesn't even try and defend to the inside, but he can sweep around the outside if he wants. Instead, he looks for the over-under. Side by side, they plunge down the hill in towards the S's. Who will lift first here? It's the battle of the bravest. You can't touch the anti-cut curves, and Van der Sant says, no thank you, I'll get you back another time. That was close, Lorenzo, but Saunders is starting to struggle on the tires.
He really is, you know, two tails lies in the matter of 5 turns, to say the least, and now losing a little bit of ground to Henry Bennett, basically 3 seconds to the power slide driver. So both drivers are struggling to get those moves done and breaking away from one another. But I can totally see Van der Sant using the push to pass once again to make the move and then try to scale up the field and get closer to Henry Bennett.
Doesn't seem to be committing just yet. Neither of these drivers has really used too many of them. Saunders has only used 1. Van der Sant has used 2, so can be a lot more aggressive late in the race if they choose to. But as you can see, left side of the screen, 18 starters, 1 retirement. Gap starting to form between basically every car other than the one group that we're looking at. This lap, though,
Blocker getting closer.
You just noticed what I noticed as well. Gap down to 2.4 seconds. There was a mistake on this lap from Yao Vaz, because at the line to 46.0 for Vaz, Blocker at 45.177, Lorenzo.
Yeah, basically a whole second, and you cannot get a whole second. You can get on pace alone because of the tire drop off and everything, but okay.
Whoa, what happened to Sly Andra's car there? You saw that too, Lorenzo, right?
I saw, yeah.
Okay, what's happened is Sly's internet has decided that he doesn't want to actually be in the virtual Texas for now, so he'll be hoping that that doesn't regress any further because, well, his teammate's right there to pick up the pieces. Back to Van der Sant and Saunders through the S's. Only a couple of tenths separating these two drivers. We will watch out, Lorenzo, because you are right. The gap is coming down, and late in this run, I mean, hypothetically, Vaz could come down and pit at the end of this lap. But Blocker definitely feeling a bit more comfortable on older tires.
Yeah, and we saw that from the Texas race, right, where Blocker was getting some really good runs with longer stints, if you recall correctly, right, Arjuna? So, not surprising to see the power slide driver being so good on these worn out tires. The problem is you're getting closer and closer to the pit stops. We're lap 13. We saw stints starting from lap 14 all the way down to 17 for the pit stops. So it's going to be interesting to see how aggressive will Blocker be, try to get closer to the Yassi driver and possibly make the move.
I think Vaz has slightly responded this lap. Is he going to come down onto pit road? No, he stays out there for one more lap. That is interesting. Blocker stays out as well. Sayandra, don't see him in shot. I think that's because he's down on pit road indeed. And I wonder if potentially Lorenzo, that is partially enforced by the fact that his internet seems to be having some issues for him. And his teammate might have requested he step out of the way. Graham Saunders has lit up the tires, though, coming out of the final corner. Let's take a look then at this replay.
As he gets overtaken by Rashad Gray, let's look on the replay. Driving a little bit off wide into 19 as Van der Sant goes into the pits, maybe clipping the curb over there. Made car light, and the worn out tires just couldn't work in the exit for the geodesic driver.
So a couple more cars down on pit road. Andra Van der Sant, as well as Kevin Bulhassa, Chris Wilhite, sorry, not Bulhassa, Wilhite and Inglenix as well. So got a couple of cars splitting this race effectively in half. Last time around, Vaz was 2/10 quicker than Blocker, as Connor Harrington gets on the button trying to close the gap to Crane. Almost 4 seconds between third and fourth at this point in time. Does look ominous, though, for Blocker. He may have left this one a little bit too late, Lorenzo. He made that small mistake coming onto the back straightaway that opened the door for Crane to fight him back, and that might really be the pivotal moment in today's race.
Yeah, it might be. You know, it's interesting. Of course, this is top split. Usually they have another top split level of race on the next time by, but the thing is, I think Blocker also might be a little bit more comfortable in terms of, you know, battling with the other guys, because Bennett is on P5, so
ooh,
it looks like he's going to the pit. Okay, this is interesting.
I'm not sure if that was a late call or not, but you saw pivoting very much from the outside of the track, maybe just trying to get onto the pit road as effectively as he can. So Vaz stays out there, undercut on the cards for Blocker, Crane, Harrington. Bennett stays out. Interesting calls up and down through the field, Lorenzo, and now we will see if Yao Vaz can hold on with this overcut.
Yeah, I'm looking over here at the tire end, also fuel strategy. About 8 seconds for Adam Blocker as he comes down out of the pit lane, and will run by P3 out of the power slide drive. Adam Crane, not much of a drama, but then Sai Andra getting the place back from his teammate, and something might be a little bit interesting down in the back. Is that John Botafour? Did he pit?
He has not pit just yet, and oh, there you can see Crane, I think, squeezing in front of the number 6 car. That was just what he needed to stay in touch with his teammate out in front, but there are gaps between Blocker and Andra and Crane. 2 seconds between third and fourth, and a further 3.3 back to Adam Crane, who is still feeling the pressure for the Alpine Stars geodesic racing machine. Through turn 11, though, the tricky left-hand sweeper. Get the power down onto this back straightaway. Blocker has plenty of push to pass now to play with for the remainder in today's race. Does not take advantage of it here on the undercut lap, which is an interesting call. But tires are still coming up to temperature, Lorenzo. If he can get onto the back of Vaz as Vaz is exiting out of pit road, he will be in a prime position to take advantage.
Yeah, because now we see the leader coming into the pit lane, and it's all come down to how aggressive will be Blocker at the exit out of the pit on his out lap, and maybe the first fast lap in his car to try to get closer. He has that push to pass Bennett in the pits as well. Not surprised one bit.
So Bennett follows Vaz down. Up on the jacks, Blocker is working his way through the final corner on the power as Vaz drops off and very quickly will roll out, hit that pit limiter button, and sweep his way down in towards turn 1. 8.7 seconds stationary. Here comes Blocker. A little bit too far behind, but on the warm rubber, what can he do as down the hill, Vaz works his way into the S's and has now the next 12 laps to hold on here, Lorenzo. I do think he's in a pretty comfortable position.
Yeah, pretty comfy margin, you know. 2.5 seconds was right around they had when they actually got into the pit lane, both drivers, and got out of the pit lane. So no major changes for the number 1 and number 2 spot of the guys in this standing field.
Andra, if anything, is actually closed on the back of Blocker.
Yeah.
It's 1.5 between second and third. But now, this is when Blocker, you would assume, will start to use the advantage that he has built up. But curiously, Lorenzo, with 8 uses left, he still doesn't get on the button, but he is now, I think, in the draft range, and this will be crucial.
Yeah, this will be crucial. 1.5 actually came down about a second from Adam Blocker, so I was slightly wrong. I apologize. Now, this is going to be interesting how Vaz will be aggressive with his push to pass. He has 5. You might know that Adam Blocker has 8 push to pass left, and Andra, I think, has about 7 or 6 left to use. So, and both within relative draft range, and I feel kind of bad for Vaz because the pressure will be massive out of the P2 guys in the standings.
But we did see tires falling off pretty hard. I mean, lap time's almost 2 seconds slower, if I'm remembering correctly. We saw 45s towards the tail end of the fuel run, these cars are capable of 44s. Adam Blocker with a 1:44.225 on his first flying lap, and that, I think, shows just how quick he is, Lorenzo. It's only 4/10 slower than Vaz's fastest lap, but not aided by the push to pass.
Not aided whatsoever. I was talking with Graham about it, and he thought he was and might have been related to push to pass. I think that proves our point that it isn't. You know, it's just on pace alone and working the hard as you can. I want to say another word for it, but it's not related to this broadcast. So you can see the lines being worked by Blocker, basically maximizing the usage of the track without getting an off track in the aggressiveness in the braking.
This has to be his opportunity. There we go.
Yeah.
Vaz responds, though, straight away. The difference between them is going to be 3 uses. Now, Blocker has to craft a strategy here very carefully, Lorenzo. Turn 1 and this braking zone, turn 12, they're the 2 places where you can realistically slip one under braking, but if you're Adam Blocker, you can realistically find a way through at basically any corner on this track.
Yeah, and the thing is, for Adam Blocker, you need to seal the deal right very quickly, right? You don't want to have the Aussie driver defending way too much as he gets an off track, runs way too wide out of 16 as they go into the triple right-hander into 17 and 18. So the problem is now Blocker needs to make a move now and not let Andre get anything closer because it's within 2 seconds. And Andre, I think, is comfortable with that margin, to be very honest with you.
He's all over the rear wing now. Vaz trying to use the button to defend, but this is not ideal for him because Blocker lays off and extends the advantage that he has. He won't have to worry about fuel as well. Different lines being taken through the sweeping corner at turn 1. But Blocker sniffs a victory, and as he, well, think about it, first weekend off in a couple of weeks. It's been back-to-back-to-back as the NTT IndyCar Series completes its first 4 rounds of the 2021 season. He finally has a weekend off, Lorenzo, but it's going to be busy in terms of competition. First here on Monday in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Then on Wednesday, Blocker looks to secure his 4th Lionheart IndyCar Series title in a row as we work our way into the middle portions of that season. And then, of course, this Saturday, the ISOWC gets underway, and he'll be fighting for the likes of João Vaz.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. And we're looking at Adam Blocker using that push to pass. Vaz is not going to use it. He has about 3 left, so we can totally see a move being done down the street here, Arjuna.
Don't think he's close enough to try and slip it through under the brakes. But now we're talking about car lengths between the 2 of them. I think there's been a couple of issues. There's Laszlo Shazbo, and something happened to John Bodefor for the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing team. Let's quickly spool up the RaceSpotTV replay machine and down into turn 1. See what happened for the number 6. Stayed out a little bit longer, already was losing the rear end there, and a kick of throttle completed the incident. Here's what happened then to the second car, Lorenzo, and once more in through turn 1.
Turn 1 as well, midway through the corner and just getting way too early on the power, but good hope from Laszlo Shabo over here to retain that car and avoid the spin.
So we are working our way towards the final laps in this race. It is 9 to go right now. Oh, just listen to the sound of the engines there as they roar underneath the bridge. It's 0.8 of a second between Vaz and Blocker. 3 push-to-passes, the difference between them, with lap traffic coming up on the horizon. First up, it's Chris Wilhite in the 17. Might actually be the only car that they have to contend with, but as they work down into the downhill braking zone, this is what Blocker might think is an advantage for him to take full advantage of, They're getting all twisted up, but Wilhite will say, I'll pull to the left-hand side of the track and make it very easy for you, Lorenzo. As I think Bodefor might be done in today's action.
Unfortunate, Bodefor having a little bit of an issue. No, he's back on track. I think that was just a technical issue. Maybe the wheel just, decided to turn off at the last second.
That looked like he needed a moment to compose himself kind of thing here. Watch. Oh, yeah, no.
What?
Oh, okay, what happens is I think his wheel probably gets so sideways, Lorenzo, it's yanked itself out of the PC. There you can see, quickly trying to reset things. take it out, plug it back in, turn it on, turn it off again, kind of thing. Blinks in and out of existence, but back into the reality of the Texas Motor, not Texas Motor Speedway, the Circuit of the Americas. Was enjoying the doubleheader weekend from Texas, where first we saw Scott Dixon returning to victory lane, followed by Pato O'Ward for the first time. Secures as well a postseason test in a McLaren F1 car. I will say this, Lorenzo, if you're winning an IndyCar, I don't know, I'd be pretty content if you ask me.
I would be very content, especially with the season that is going on like this. A very crazy season. And as well, talking about maiden stuff, Scott McLaughlin getting his maiden podium this weekend as well.
Hey, that's true. I did congratulate him as well, and simp for Scotty on the BMW broadcast, because second place on his rookie campaign in an oval. That is something to say. And I mean, yes, it was aided by strategy, but there you go. I mean, ultimately,
and a few other things.
But strategy is such an important part, right? Being in the right place at the right time, and I'm sure not the first. Hopefully the first of many for Scott McLaughlin. Don't think we'll see him in action this month of May on the iRacing service, but we have seen him 12 months ago. Should be an interesting month of May as well. The Fixed 500 coming up first in just a couple of weeks' time, before on May the 22nd, I believe it's the 12th annual iRacing Indy 500. Brandon Traynor looks to go back to back to back. Not just the only multi-time winner of this event, managed to do it in back-to-back, representing Team RLL 12 months ago. Track conditions will be scorching hot for qualifying and scorching hot for the race as well, so keeping yourself on the track and making sure you get the best position you can, Lorenzo, is going to be so important, because it might be a race where if you're not at the front, you have no chance of winning.
Yeah, you need to get those practice done, and we talked, I think, about this during the season. Teams starting their practice and their preparation for the 500 back in February. So I'm surprised. I'm starting my practice, my preparation once my computer gets back. But it's going to be very interesting getting this season and my rust off from Indianapolis, because I really want to get my revenge out of the Indianapolis track. I have a few steps to settle with the 4 turns and the 2.5 mile oval.
Well, I was having a conversation.
Oval.
There you go. You corrected yourself. I was having a conversation with fellow RaceSpotTV commentator Lewis McLeod after the BMW Sim GT Cup this past weekend, Lorenzo, and I was trying to describe just how difficult qualifying at Indy is. You take off as much downforce as you can. And then I had to actually talk to World Championship driver Zach Campbell to get a good way to describe it, because I was not getting it through, I think, to Lewis in the right way possible. Zach's words. These aren't my words, Lorenzo. These are Zach's words. Okay. You basically have to hit a 6-inch window perfectly 16 times. If you go outside of it by an inch, that can be the difference between not 2, not 3, maybe even 4 or 5 places, even if it's just 1 out of 16 corners, all while managing your in-car tools as well.
Yeah, I remember one thing about when I was preparing for last year's Indy 500. I was looking at Michele Constantini's, because he makes the VRS setups, right? And then basically said, okay, so for lap 1, you got to do this. Lap 2, you got to do this. Especially through those turns, try to keep it clean. And lap number 3, you got to do this. And I'm like, oh my God. If this is my first 500, I'm probably going to have a headache. And I still have to think about the race strategy, which is a completely different field, because you have so many variables that can change lap by lap by lap, just because of yellow flags and the track conditions itself, and or how hard you're racing turns of the draft fields.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, firstly, Michele Costantini. You slipped
Michele.
You slipped into the tradition. Well, no, the traditional RaceSpotTV thing is both Vaz and Blocker, by the way, get on the button trying to close the gap. Is Blocker in second, now up to 1.4. You made the traditional RaceSpotTV commentator's mistake, which is Constantini. And trust me, I've been victim of it way too many times, but there's no N. It's Costantini.
Oh, okay.
You get it drilled into your head because Michele, I think, wants to win an Indy this year after the mistake he made at the Open Wheels 500 just a couple of months ago, coming down onto pit road. Three-way fight for the lead between Hugo Olsen, Adam Blocker, and Michele Costantini. Did I just do it? Costantini. Well, and then coming down onto pit road, he threw it away by himself. So trying to make amends in the month of May, as is the entire Apex Racing team and Team I5G. At the line, 5 laps to go, Lorenzo. Gap up to 1.8 seconds.
Yeah, well, gap up to 1.8 seconds. But the one thing I really want to see is how much of a push to pass they still have. I think Vaz might have 2 left, and Blocker might have about 3 or 5 actually still left. So there is some margin in some reality. I think we saw this on Barber, where Blocker was basically using his push to pass to get the best lap out of the race, and we see the reality where now Blocker has the advantage of having more push to pass to get closer and make the move. There's that reality.
Problem is, though, he's not close enough, and I don't think he's got the tires to at this point take advantage in through turn 11. There we go, on the button once more. Difference between them is just down to 2 with 5 laps to go. Blocker is running out of opportunities. Gap back to Syandra is now 6.4 seconds. So no real concern for Blocker in terms of fending off a charge from behind. Crane a further 2.1 seconds adrift. Harrington in 5th. 6 seconds further back with Henry Bennett starting to apply some pressure as they both get on the button as well. They're working themselves down into the braking zone at turn 12. This might be, Lorenzo, a fight to watch out for because Henry Bennett will want the championship points on offer.
Yeah, because he needs the most championship points. We were talking about this not long ago because Adam Blocker has the IndyCar commitments that he has to partake on in a few weeks that he needs to go. And you have basically a 2-week gap where they're going to be basically neck to neck, and every point will count. Every place counts here in the IndyCar Open Championship. So Bennett needs to have a little bit of a, I'm not going to say desperation, but a little bit of a more agile pace on that IR18 to get closer to Harrington. They make the move and closing up the gap in the standings as they wrap up this round with 4 to go.
At the front, gap 1.9 seconds, almost creeping above 2 as Vaz once more through the S's. There is more lap traffic in front of them, though. First up is the 13 of Nate Brody, the 15 of Kazuhiro Shiba as well. This might be one final chance for Blocker to try and slip on past, but I think at least this first car in front, Lorenzo, is going to get out of the way, and the optimal point for the former World Championship contender.
Yeah, because Blocker once again uses his push to pass, and totally not surprising to see the Power Slide driver do that because Vaz, is he going to get him on about 16 and 17? That is going to be living hell for the Aussie driver if he actually does.
Pulls to the side. That will make his life much, much easier. What will Blocker have to deal with, though, with the same lap traffic, cuts as much of the inside curb as he can on the anchors through this left-hand corner. Slight locking of the inside front as well. We'll get dirty air through the triple right-hander, but gap has basically reverted to where it was before they work through the traffic. Pulls to the side. That will aid out the number 1 car. But Yao Vaz, I think now, will scamper on past the second of the lap traffic, Lorenzo, down this main straightaway.
And totally not using the push to pass. I think they're going to be, basically, the key for Blocker is 1 push to pass each lap, whereas we can totally see Vaz using the 2 push to pass he has left in the final 2 laps, or even in the final lap to get as far away as he can from the Power Slide driver. So some interesting scenarios developing here in this race, but it looks like... Okay, go ahead, Arjuna.
No, I was just going, ooh, Blocker is going to get checked up here behind that lapped car. Gap was coming down, but it will ratchet up now, working through turn 6 and 7, up the hill before you go down the hill.
2 seconds.
And he's losing more time now, Lorenzo.
Yeah, and nothing can Blocker do there. There's no complaints. It's just the nature of the track. We also see that on F1, right? Where some of the cars spun around and a little bit of a confusion far in the back.
Yeah, that's a bit of an entertaining moment there. Not top 10, not top 5, I guess it is, contender. We'll take a look at the replay in a second. For now, let's just check in with the gap. 2.1 seconds there.
But
you do
I was
have...
going to mention that.
You were about to mention these VRS cars as well. The VRS satellite duo. Crane looking for a podium position again.
Is our team motors? We know Syandra and Adam Crane a little bit. Do they have team motors? You know, do not crash the cars.
Well, the main team order, as always, is don't crash the car, Lorenzo. That's ultimately the thing to do. Crane, don't remember where he was in the championship standings. 5th, about 100 points behind Marquez and Lichtenberg. This is a good opportunity for him to close the gap. I don't think his teammate will care about that too much for now. Oh no, what's happened to Sanders? All by himself. Let's go and take a look at those replays. 2.2 seconds is the gap between first and second with 2 laps to go here. First up, let's check in with Kazuhiro Shiba. And so tucked up behind Adam Blocker. Oh, just a bit deep initially, then spins the car around. The Red Bull car, nowhere to go. Take a look at what happens to Sanders here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, it looks like to be in the same spot, to be very honest with you. Car gets really loose on the exit, yeah.
Ooh, no, Lorenzo.
Too much power on
this is turn 15. No, you're right. Never mind. I am very, very wrong. Arjuna is always wrong. Lorenzo is always right. Note to self. Yao Vaz on the button for the penultimate time. Blocker does try to respond. There was a switch around between Andra and Crane, but Andra has managed to fight it off for now. These cars work their way onto the back straightaway as well. Tower illuminates as all of these cars have passing on their mind, Lorenzo. We are coming to the white flag lap.
Yeah, we're coming to the white flag in a few moments as they're about to head out into 17, I think, and problems for Venderson, looks like.
Oh, no, what a shame. He was pressuring the back of Henry Bennett as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let's check in with our, hopefully, final RaceSpotTV replay on the day. Jump to the onboard look with the 16 machine. Oh, you could hear the tire sliding around. Gets on the loud pedal to try and spin it around. Does a good job to get it pointed back in the right direction. And we'll soldier on then for a 7th place finish. Not necessarily the worst result in a day where he has looked a very quick driver. Across the line to start the final lap. Vaz is clear of Blocker by 2.5 seconds, Lorenzo. He doesn't really have to worry too much. And I think at the end of the day, it was all about the push-to-pass usage in the early stages of the race. We wondered if he was being a bit too aggressive, but, well, he showed us that he really had figured it out.
And really figuring it out, you know, can we call this the Gustav Greenberg strategy? Because he's done the same thing in Long Beach, right, Arjuna? And actually got away with it. And now Val's using basically half of his push to pass and getting away with it again. But the car looks to be really set up in the early to the mid portion of the stint. And just carrying it through, you know, just managing to avoid the one axis, avoiding spinning out the car. So the former World Championship Series driver showing his claws early on this week for the ISLWC.
Well, it's going to be a long drive from the virtual circuit of the Americas, Austin, Texas, up to upstate New York and Watkins Glen International for round 1 in the ISOWC. Let's check in with the battle for 3rd. Can Crane throw one up the inside of his teammate? I think probably not. He doesn't want to get in trouble this late in the race. Both Harrington and Bennett also using their final usages of the button as they scamper on through. But out front, it is the Yas Heat driver. He brought the heat to the Circuit of the Americas, now looks forward to this Saturday and getting underway in his ISOWC campaign. The former World Championship contender out of the final quarter, and for the team, a very well-earned victory as he comes across the line 27 laps later, pole to the checkered flag. Adam Blocker in his championship quest comes across the line in second. Some well-needed championship points as he looks forward to his second, well, it's not technically the month of May, but his trip to the Brickyard and the experience that is the Indy 500. Andra holds off his teammate to get a podium position. Crane will settle for 4th as we wait for Harrington, Bennett, and Van der Sant to streak across the line. Interesting race there, Lorenzo. Circuit of the Americas. Not always a driver's favorite, at least on the iRacing service. Definitely produced some interesting fights at the start of today's action.
Yeah, a little bit of a, as you said, a polarizing track to all drivers, not very popular with the community, but can provide some good action. It did exactly that today, and now we officially start the month of May. This is the first race of the month of May. Now we get out of Texas and then we take a trip down to Indiana, into the road course of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and that track is going to be real interesting. But over here, great action, and Jean Vos proving he has still the skills to match up to the field.
And he will burn the house down as he deserves. Victor here today, and I'm sure he will be happy. Must be pretty late for him, Lorenzo, because it's what? 6 p.m. here on the west coast of the U.S. and Yao Vaz over in Europe. I'm sure he'll be heading straight to bed after this race.
1 or 2 in the morning at least.
So some well-earned donuts there. And you look at the skill there, Lorenzo. He's clearly very experienced at doing them, because out of the donut straight onto this back straightaway.
Just casual, right? Not like nothing happened. To be very honest with you.
So let's go ahead and take a look at our final race results here. Now, first race of the new week on the iRacing.com service. Yao Vaz for Yas Heat takes victory by 3.2 seconds at the line from Adam Blocker and Powerslide Motorsports. Good points haul for Blocker in the number 1 machine, especially when compared to Bennett, his teammate, down in 6th. Syandra in 3rd with his teammate just a couple of tenths of a second behind. Adam Crane in the number 7. Connor Harrington returns to a Monday night. He finishes this race in 5th. Bennett in 6th. Van de Sant with a late race spin drops a little bit down the running order in terms of time, but holds on to a very impressive 7th position, with Graham Saunders, Andrew Wood, and Rashad Craig rounding out the top 10. Laszlo Shazbo in 11th position. Very good to see a number of cars finishing on the lead lap. John Bodefer, Kevin Bulhassa, and Robin Glenix, the final 3 cars, with Kazuhiro Shiba, Nate Brody, and Chris Wilhite all 1 lap down. Julian Martinez Pastor, the only retirement in our 18-car field. And there you can see, we talked about it being the key to the race, Lorenzo. Fastest lap set on lap number 3, a 1:43.857. Don't really recall how many push-to-passes we saw from Vaz, but I believe it was at least 2.
It was 2. I actually saw that, and he basically was on the main straight and in the back straight, and just managed it all the way through the S's and the twisty sections, and got the only 43 lap in this field, as I recall from. Just taking a look over here to confirm, only driver who's been on the 43s.
So an impressive showing from him, and he'll bring his teammates into the action as well. Don't know how many post-race interviews we're going to get, but I tell you what, let's bring on in Adam Blocker, 2nd place in today's action. And Adam, qualifying didn't necessarily go your way. You had to be bold on the start, but Vaz ran away using the push-to-passes to his advantage in the first couple of laps. And from there, it was very difficult for you to really close on up. Tire wear seemed to be a bit more of a struggle than we expected.
Yeah, first wasn't really expecting the cold weather that we got in the session, so we kind of prepared our setups. The limited preparation we did for this, we prepared for hotter weather, so that kind of threw us off, and honestly I screwed up both my Q laps. I think starting 1st or 2nd would have made a huge difference to my race, because I lost a lot of time fighting with Adam early in the race, and I made a mistake on lap 4 that made us fight again. And yeah, I mean, I think without that lost time, if I would have been like 2 seconds back from Zhao or less at the start of the pit cycle, if we had done the same thing, I think I could have had a go at him, because it was one point where I, got the gap down to, a pretty low margin. But yeah, I just wasn't able to make anything happen.
Stole my next question, so I'll pivot then. What happened then after the pit stop? You did manage to close the gap, and we were wondering if with a bit of a push-to-pass advantage over the number 4, if you were able to get things done, but it just seemed like by the time you close up to the back, it was a little bit too late, and then through lap traffic, you got a bit stuck through the S's, and Vaz took full advantage there.
Yeah, I didn't get any help with lap traffic, but I don't think I was going to get him at that point anyway. I think we were basically even on pace, so it wasn't really like, in order for me to be able to pass, he would have had to make a mistake, because I couldn't follow close enough through the S's, and then whatever time I made up on the back and in the stadium section, I would just lose in the high-speed corners. So yeah, it was pretty much, I couldn't really do much with us being pretty much the same pace.
So busy week for you, Adam. You've come off, back-to-back weeks in your real-world commitments, but it's equally busy on the sim. Here on Monday, of course, still fighting for the championship, which I think swings a bit in your favor with Bennett finishing down in 6th. Then on Wednesday, Lionheart IndyCar competition as we head to the Kentucky Motor Speedway. And then Saturday, the ISOWC kicks off, and I know you guys have been busy, and that's not just it. You've got to look forward to the month of May as well. How are you balancing all of these things, and how are you finding time to make sure that you guys are prepared for these races?
Well, it's nice to be part of a team. Obviously, a lot of other people have been putting in effort when I can't, but yeah, Lionheart will probably be a minimal effort kind of deal this week as we really focus on ISOWC over the weekend, and then obviously the month of May is the biggest event of the year. So yeah, I mean, it's just really tough. Yeah, but looking forward to it all. It should be a good challenge. This weekend should be, I think, the most competitive IndyCar road race ever, maybe, on the sim, so that's pretty exciting.
Well, congratulations on 2nd here, Adam, and I'm sure reclaiming the championship lead. Good luck in the month of May as well in your real-world commitments. We won't see you, I think, for a couple of weeks, but hopefully you'll be back to round off the season. At the end of the day, though, I'm sure you're going to go and celebrate with your teammates.
Yep, see ya.
So, Adam Blocker for Powerslide Motorsports. Let's bring on in Cy Andra then. Up 3 positions on the day to get into the podium there. Interesting fight with your teammates, Cy, but first question I have to ask, was your internet connection giving you any type of heart attack there? Because for a few moments we saw your car with a lot of damage there.
It was definitely touch and go. My teammate was definitely very vocal about telling me when I was popping in and out for certain. It's unfortunate. I'm not entirely sure why it happens, but for about 10 or so seconds, my ping goes sky high and then returns to normal like it never happened. But of course, to you guys, I'm sure it looks a lot more dramatic. It's unfortunate. I'll try to get it fixed soon, though.
It was just funny. We got a brief look at you, and you seem to have lost your right front and then magically reattached itself. When you came down onto pit road side, were you thinking about an undercut? Because we thought that might be one of the few opportunities to get something done on track. Tire wear very much a big limiting factor in terms of pace over the course of this 27-lap race.
It was definitely something to consider, but I think the right move was to go for a little bit of an overcut, kind of what Henry and Zhao did. I simply miscalculated my fuel a tiny bit. I was about 1/10 of a liter short coming to the final lap there in the stint, so I decided it's not worth sputtering and ducking to the pits a lap early. Unfortunate, but I think had I pitted with Blocker, I may have had something for him on cold tires. So
exciting week coming up here with, of course, the ISOWC kicking off side. You guys have a number of cars entered. What does it look like? You've got, of course, Adam, who we saw today, but Alex Ellis as well, who has experience in Indy Lights in the real world. Should be fun for you guys as you fight it out with some of the best in sim racing.
Absolutely, can't wait. Setup testing has already begun, and just counting on the days at this point.
Well, we'll see you then on Saturday. Cy, congratulations on the podium, and hopefully we see you more on Mondays as well.
Thanks. See you guys later.
So Cy Andra, who, it's funny, we were talking about the internet connection there, Lorenzo. Just to punctuate the point, just getting a brief look at it once more.
That's I told you, like, still the question out of my fingers, you know. I really wanted to ask him about that a little bit. But yeah, getting a really good result, and Satellite coming really strong for this season, to be honest, because all drivers look to have the pace in the car set up for any track whatsoever in the road.
I will say, though, watch out for Yas Heat, because I think Vaz, we saw him at Barber, I don't want to say struggling, Lorenzo, but not necessarily having the same sort of pace. And Barber is a very technical track where setup can be very important. We heard from Blocker just a moment ago. I mean, he said that the track conditions weren't what he expected, and so they weren't necessarily prepared for that. Vaz showed up more prepared, I think, for this type of a race. Bodes well, I think, for his hopes this weekend.
Yeah, I basically can attest to, in terms of rust, you know, we know Vaz often he competes sometimes from in the Indy cars. Of course, the ISOWC had a big effort in him making this come back into open wheelers. But regardless, I can totally attest to Russ. It's not, again, not an easy track, not the easiest one for the drivers to get into round one and perform. But he showed up over here. Why? He's a former World Championship driver, and we should respect the efforts out of the C driver.
And so let's take a look at the schedule before we say goodbye. We are, it's crazy to think, 2/3 done with this championship, heading into the final 4 races. First up, we head to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for our version of the Indy GP. Of course, I forget the name, GMR Grand Prix. I think that's the name on May 15th as the real world superstars of the NTT IndyCar Series get underway in their real-world action from the Brickyard. We'll have Atlanta Motor Speedway as an interim kind of a race. Not sure what that will look like, though, because we will have other things to attend to, namely Indy 500 qualifying on the iRacing.com service, with the iRacing Indy 500 for 2021 taking place that very weekend. After that, we will head to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for our Indianapolis 100, and then Belle Isle and the streets of Detroit to round out our season. It's not just that. We mentioned over the course of this broadcast, lots more IndyCar action coming this week on RaceSpotTV. The ISOWC kicks off on Saturday, live from Watkins Glen at 6 p.m. UTC. $7,000 on the line, 6 races over the course of the summer, and we will finish at the Brickyard on July 31st. It is time to say goodbye, though. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, and I've been joined by the wonderful Lorenzo Bonder, as always, here live on a Monday night. It's Devan Ballo and TrackCams22.com. If you've been enjoying the wonderful TV cameras that we've had on air today, you can head on over to his website to learn more and grab them yourself. Additional car cameras designed by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. Live timing and scoring powered by our friends at timing71.org. You can follow along with the best in real and virtual motorsport using their world-class suite of data analysis tools. If you want to follow us for more sim racing action, at RaceSpotTV across of YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram. If you're not already subscribed to us on the YouTube, hit the red button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with a great sim racing series that we get to cover. It's Yao Vaz in victory lane here today, but all eyes focused on this coming Saturday and kicking off the ISOWC. We will be back in 1 week's time from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as we get set to kick off the iRacing month of May. For the team at RaceSpotTV, so long and goodbye, and we'll see you soon for more sim racing action.